Okay. I think it's saying that we're live on Facebook, so I think we're live on Facebook.
Live on Facebook. Wow.
Risa gives us a
Hello,
thumbs
everyone.
up. So I would like to welcome everyone back to Earth Day Berks 2021. And I am very excited to introduce this wonderful panel of people who are really passionate about sustainable fashion. I will take a couple minutes to introduce them, and then I'll give you a little quick overview of what we'll talk about, and then we'll get into it. So first off, I would like to introduce Karen Glass, who is a conceptual fashion artist. Her work strives to present social impact through expression of the human condition, primarily through the lens of deep humanity and acceptance. She has worked globally as an independent designer and as a creative executive and consultant. Her last work, the Zero Waste Life Work Project, endeavors to give voice to women who have survived victimization. The media used fashion, textile artifacts, and secondhand menswear collected globally were transformed into new one-off gender-neutral pieces. The work, directed by Glass, was created in a studio factory in Atlanta at the Goat Farm Art Center by a small community of stitch artists and women in transitional recovery from the commercial sex trade and substance addiction. Karen, that's a really awesome list there from you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this morning.
Absolutely.
And next we have Meg Valente. So with degrees in peace and justice studies and counseling and spiritual care, Meg found a natural transition into the world of fair trade and ethical fashion as she attempted to navigate a work life with 3 small children. Meg believes that mindset shifts can empower your ability to prioritize people and the planet over profits. Meg, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. And then we have Natan Pulido-Perez, or Pupe. He is a community organizer, event planner, music curator, and sustainable fashion stylist. He is co-founder of Reading Vintage Expo and currently writes a sustainable fashion segment for El Palo magazine. He is involved in many initiatives in and around Reading, PA, 2 of which include One Love Project and Berks Democratic Women. His love for community, fashion, and music gives him the opportunity to continue doing what he loves, bringing people together, whether it be on the dance floor or on the runway. Natan, thanks a lot. We're so happy to have you with us. I know, right? Beautiful. It's like, that is very succinct and 100% true.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the title of our, and I forgot to, my name is Courtney Schober.
Yay!
I always forget to introduce myself. I am on the Earth Day Berks crew, also the manager of the Penn Street Market, and some other stuff around town. I won't go into all of it, but I'm happy to be here and happy to bring all these wonderful people together this morning. And I want to give a shout out to Risa again for stepping in to help screen any questions we have on Facebook. So if there is anyone watching or tuning in, please do not be shy. We want to hear your comments and your questions, and Risa will field them to us as we're able to take them. So we're really excited to have everyone here this morning for a chat about how choosing what you wear has the power to change the world. So we'll cover some history, some surprising statistics, some social and environmental effects, and even give you some suggestions on how you can take action and be a part of the solution when it comes to sustainable fashion and just making better choices for the earth. So really, we want to just get people thinking a little different here today. So thought we'd open up with some interesting facts and statistics. I think, Karen, you had some for us, and Meg, you might have a couple too. So do you want to, Karen, do you want to open up with some interesting facts for people?
Sure. I don't know if everyone's aware, but globally there's 92 million tons of textile waste that's into landfill every year. That's about a truckload a second globally. In the United States, it's 17 million tons, and it contributes to 10% of our global, all global gas house emissions. Yeah, so we as individuals, on the average, we acquire about 103 new garments a year. 21% of it gets into waste, of which 95% is recyclable, meaning it could go into, somebody else could wear it, or you could trade it and give it to Goodwill. That's about 70 pounds per year. The average life cycle of a fast fashion garment is 5 weeks. That means it's in and out of your wardrobe in 5 weeks. And remember, 20% of it doesn't get worn. That's pretty amazing, huh? Yeah.
Depressing.
Yeah. So the biggest problem with all of this is that with the contribution to the greenhouse gas emissions is that it contributes to the depletion of our non-renewable resources. You know, the fashion industry uses about 1.5 trillion liters of water every year. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so we just have to really be mindful on a more elevated level, but bring it down to our everyday life. When we want to choose that garment, just know what we're doing with it. Make sure it has a long life in our closet, essentially.
Absolutely. Meg, do you have any numbers for us that you would want to share?
So in the early 1960s, women still only had about 3 dresses in their closets. Now today, especially if we look at new construction architecture and home building, we can see very clearly that we are driven to build homes with closets the size of bedrooms. And that is to accommodate the shift in mentality of what we desire to possess in our wardrobe, how many options we need to have.
Wow.
So we typically have about 400 new bag purchases in the course of our lifetime as women. That's an average. 400 purses or bags in the course of our lifetime. And most of those are made with synthetic materials that really do not break down and biodegrade. So we are talking what Karen was speaking to, greenhouse gas emissions coming from these products. The synthetics are really powerful. They're like plastic, they're really hard to break down. And they do contain harsh chemical dyes. And also just to mention in sort of the facts and figures, the whole process of creating this quantity of both clothing and accessories and all of these possessions that we now typically have in our closets, it's not just about the chemical impact on our earth and how that's affecting our future, but it also affects the human beings currently on the earth who live in the context of where these things are being produced. So the chemicals that go back into water supply from dyeing processes and the like can actually be poisoning children and adults in those communities. So we're also talking about like current livelihoods and health risks coming from the procedures that we go through in our production, like typical fast fashion production.
Wow. Yeah, that's some staggering numbers there. Maybe want to, Natan, do you think you could comment?
Yes,
Maybe.
I have some numbers too.
Sure. Great.
Yeah, well, and it was talking about what in regards to the same thing, the production of these clothes, and in terms of something simple like the jeans, the amount of water that you take to do a jean, it's 8,100 liters of water to process and make one pair of jeans. And then water that it gets, we just heard, it gets contaminated, and it needs to be treated before getting back to the environment. And treating a liter of water is $1, and then you pay $30 at the mall for those jeans. So who paid the rest?
Yeah, there's that true cost that we talk about. Like you pay $30,
Yeah.
but what else are you having to give up for buying that pair of jeans? Yeah,
Oh.
wow. That's staggering too. Can you guys talk a little bit more about maybe kind of what like fast fashion means? I mean, I know not everyone is familiar with that term, and maybe a little bit about kind of the life cycle of like one piece of clothing and what that might look like.
Yeah, sure. It depends on what the fiber is, but worst case scenario, if it's a polyester fiber, then it's best case scenario is if it's a natural untreated fiber, but worst case scenario, polyester derived from fossil fuel. So the fuel has to go into some type of yarn making. It's either a spun yarn or it's a filament yarn. Filament yarn is the real cheap one that looks kind of like a bunch of hairs together. And then it gets either knit or woven into a garment. And if it's woven, then that's a cut and sew process. And anything like the pattern pieces, the front panel, the sleeves, they all get cut out of fabric. And all the negative space is garbage. The point of cut and sew is to save money, of course, but also you want to have as little negative space as possible. So a marker, for example, when you cut and sew something, you might have up to 10% waste goes in the garbage. Millions and millions of pieces are cut and sew, all right? Then that goes to get sewn in a factory, then it gets shipped. It's sewn in a factory, which most likely, if it's fast fashion, it's sewn in either Vietnam or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. And depending on how many units they buy, the people could very easily get paid 12 cents a day, which does not cover cost of living. So you have multiple family housing, you have still poverty levels. It's a cycle of negative contribution, essentially. So then let's say, okay, let's fast forward ahead, and that garment makes it to market, and it goes to Walmart or Target or H&M or Zara, right? And they put new things out every day, every week to encourage the psychographic of buy, buy, buy. In which they do. So that gets us to the 5-week cycle of a garment in a fast fashion wardrobe, right? But however, companies like H&M are working with the MacArthur Foundation they created a chemical that will change any garment fiber into a new fiber that they'll make new clothes out of. And you can actually go on the MacArthur website and look at it. Like do MacArthur H&M sustainability, and you can find out more about it. So you can actually bring all clothes, any fiber to H&M, and they'll recycle it for you.
Wow, that's good to know. Good piece, good fact.
There are some clear markers, what to look for to know that you're engaging in a brand that would qualify sort of as a fast fashion brand. Some of those clear markers would include, does this brand offer, hundreds of styles, even sometimes thousands of styles?
Yeah.
Are they updating those styles regularly, meaning weekly? So a typical fast fashion brand would have a new style dropped 52 times a year. So that's weekly.
Wow.
So that's a clear marker. Also, the number of options. A lot of shopping these days is online because especially the pandemic has certainly shifted us even further into that worldview of how to shop. But it's easy to see right in front of you on an internet screen just how much is offered from a company. So if they can offer thousands of styles of dresses alone, then you know that production is happening in a quick way around the world, and that most likely, because of that quantity, the people creating it are, as Karen mentioned, being paid somewhere in that range of 12 cents or so a day. sometimes a little more, sometimes even less. But those are clear markers, like how many items are being produced within each size range, and then
Good call out,
how
Meg.
many
Yeah.
styles are being dropped to refresh the scene and make people
How many
think they want something
pages
more.
are you clicking through
Yeah,
on any
yeah.
given website, right?
Scrolling.
Yeah, really.
Scrolling, yeah, or scrolling through, yeah, absolutely. So let's go out from kind of global and bring it home to Reading.
Yeah.
Through talking, you know, we had some preliminary discussions on this before we met up today, and like the history in Reading in the fashion industry is just amazing. And I know all of you kind of know a little bit about that. So Karen, do you want to start
sure.
and give us some info about the history of Reading in fashion?
Yeah, I lived in Reading when I was a teenager, and I became familiar with it a little bit. I didn't know that I was going to go into fashion at the time, and there was a friend of our family's who actually owned Talbot knitting mills, and I didn't know anything about it at the time. But what I knew of was a little history of I think that if y'all can help me on this, the partners were Toon and Jansen that started Berkshire Hosiery or Berkshire Knitting Mills. But they started this what they called an experimental knitting process that had very little waste. So it would fashion a part of a garment in knitwear that you didn't have to cut anything off. So like a whole front panel of your garment, like what I have on is full fashion knitwear, it would be knitted to specification size. So your waste was very, very low. And that was the beginning of full fashion knitwear. And then then Talbot knitting mills started doing it, and they became very famous for the twin set and the twin set with the knit skirt, and then that full fashion knitting went into seamless knitting, which the Italians developed through what they called Santoni machines. And then those Santoni machines started to develop seamless underwear and athletic wear. And now we know athleisure is the biggest, greatest fashion movement ever. So when you think about it, that little experimental knitting mill with Berkshire Knitting Mills with Toon and Jansen started right here in Reading. And then the outlets, of course, contributed to another marketing business model where your secondary and tertiary pieces were sold at frontline stores. Problem with that was that then it became so lucrative that all the major labels started producing clothes just for the outlet stores. And then they would hit the manufacturers up for cost reductions. They'd buy more quantity because they moved more quantity. So on one end, it was a good thing, but on the other end, it fed into fast fashion as well.
Right.
So.
Lee comes to mind. Lee Jeans was in there.
Lee Jeans, Vanity Fair, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Meg, do you have any pieces of history in fashion in Reading that you would want to share?
There's just one little tidbit that's pretty interesting about the two gentlemen, Toon and Jansen, who started the Berkshire Knitting Mills, which was also that they played a pretty significant role in the community development around here as well.
No kidding. Wow.
And yeah, it's interesting because their philosophy was really to build community, which is why you'll see smaller homes next to larger homes. Wyomissing is close to where the knitting mills were. So I think that was a big part of the structure. But there were even community meals offered at lunchtime in their knitting mills, and families could come and eat with their loved ones that worked there. So, to think that there was this like beautiful starting point, I feel so inspired to bring it back. Let's do it, people. Let's get some slow fashion knitting mills in Reading.
Let's open up our own little factory.
Awesome.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's really good. That's a good transition, because Natan, I wanted to ask you about any history pieces that you know of in the past, and then I would love for you to talk about what you're doing right now in Reading in the fashion scene. People are like, there's a fashion scene in Reading? Yes. And Natan is spearheading it. So can you tell us a little bit
thank
about
you.
that? Yeah.
Yes, well, thank you for those words, Courtney. I've been looking into the research and the history of Reading with fashion, and I was very surprised that Reading, as I said, it was a capital of the world, a fashion capital of the world. I'm sorry, a fashion capital of the world, and it was New York is where all these garments were made, but were designed, but they were made here. Like it was, they were designed in New York, but they were made in Reading, and brands like it was a big range of brands from Levi's to Christian Dior and Schiaparelli, Oscar de la Renta, that they had a relationship with Reading, which is for me, that I love fashion, and it's very surprising. And it's well, yes, everything as all this business went pretty much they transitioned to something like very big, like some of underwear, like Fruit and Loops. You can track their origins to the streets of the city. Fruit and Loops. Am I saying it right?
Fruit of the Loom. Yep.
Yes. But and then other one, well, the Chinese market and the fast fashion industry cycle ended up to hurt the economy and the fashion industry in Reading. So it's yeah, it was very interesting for me to know all that, honestly, and it was actually also inspiring because I've been trying to I love fashion, and I've been trying to promote and to the use of sustainable fashion in all the ways I can. The use of sustainable fashion in our lives, and we all are part of this cycle that we call fashion, but we want to step out of the fast fashion cycle because that's too fast. So
slow it down.
Slow down, yes. We're still part of the fashion cycle, and I love it, honestly. But I think we have to slow down and then get pieces that actually are like made or consciously with the planet.
Yeah.
This fast fashion cycle is being very harmful, and it has been a loss situation, and only one win. So we need to make it a win-win-win situation, and it's possible. And I think Reading with this history, and then just creating conscience and awareness to the mainstream it, making it mainstream, making it popular to make it sustainable fashion the best option.
So working to change the mindset of people as far as, how are they making their fashion choices? Where are they buying things? Things like that. So can you tell us a little bit about some of your projects that you've been doing over the past few years in Reading? Because they're pretty awesome.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Well, you can see one of them right here. This is I am trying to make these aprons from jeans, upcycled jeans, and try to waste like the less. I try to make the use of all of it. I'm actually going to stand up so you can see it.
Yeah, model for us. Awesome.
So yeah, these are the jeans.
Cool.
The process of making it is so easy. It's like I was actually a little surprised how easy it is. Like you just cut a couple things in half, and then you just start that I think can be replicable, very, very simple.
Yeah.
How many pairs of jeans are in it? Just one?
One.
Excellent. How much cut waste did you have?
Probably like 1%.
Woohoo!
That's awesome. That's good statistics. Yeah. Nice job.
I was trying to make to take as less as like pretty much everything is here. All the jeans, just a couple of things I took out. But yeah, that was one of my main concerns, that I could use all the jean in something new, the entire thing.
It's really marketable.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're actually getting some of these out into the community, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, right now I'm testing it, because I want to make sure that I wear it every day. I want to make sure that it's like I wash it and it's a
That it
couple
holds up.
that it's going to be what you want an apron for. Like it's for work, you know.
Yeah. I
That's
think it's
I-
wonderful. Let
Thank
me know
you.
if you need help. I'll help you
I
if you
do.
need any help. Just
Yes,
I think
reach
the,
out.
the
I
choice
don't
to
know if we
use,
have phone numbers, but go ahead.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
we'll have to do that.
I love the choice to use denim, Natan, because
Yeah.
I feel like you're honoring the origin of denim, which was really workwear.
Workwear,
The
right.
whole purpose of denim was like, how durable can this be so that we can wear it over and over and over and over on the farm, you know, in the dirt and the mud. So I think it's such a beautiful thing that you're honoring sort of like the spirit of where denim came from with that.
Yeah, really. That's really great. It's really a great concept. Honestly. I mean,
Thank
you
you.
can
And I
do
think it's
so
perfect
much
for Reading.
with that.
I think it's perfect for Reading, you know, to I mean, maybe have a factory making those things. You know,
Well,
I
why
think
don't you make a factory then? I'll help you. I'm serious.
yeah,
All
well,
right, let's do it.
Spent 40
yeah,
years doing it.
I am down. I will be
Okay.
down.
Let's do it.
This conversation will definitely continue after this
It's
panel.
absolutely, huh?
So let's change gears a little bit and talk.
Yeah.
We did touch on it, but let's talk a little bit about some of the social impact. We did give a couple of small statistics, like the human impact, like who's making our clothes, you know, and what does that look like, and how should we be a little more, you know, conscious of that.
There are
Well,
some
Go
big
ahead, Meg.
pieces to that puzzle, you know.
Yeah.
The majority of garment workers around the world are women, and the garment industry is very intertwined, unfortunately, with the storyline of human trafficking, with the injustice of human trafficking. That within the garment industry, there's a lot of poaching of workers into trafficking situations. Even some, you know, garment industry production factories facilitate that, unfortunately. So, you know, we're looking at some really serious human social need that exists even for those who have jobs within the garment industry. And I think sometimes there can be a tendency, you know, from different perspectives to say, well, at least someone has a job, right? At least they have this, you know, this paycheck coming in, so to speak. But it's also really important to remember the degree to which we are really taking advantage of these human beings in that context, that someone may have a job, but for barely their basic needs to be met because of that job is not enough. And, you know, for me, coming from that sort of counseling background, I'm always reflecting again on Maslow's hierarchy of need, that physiological needs are sometimes all that can be met on 12 cents a day. You know,
Yeah.
do I have food? Do I have a very basic place to sleep? Sometimes not even a safe place to sleep at night. And if I do have just barely those things, that's all that my brain can really allow me to focus on. It's not until we get to a degree of love and belonging, you know, our safety needs are met, our physiological needs are met, we have a community, a sense of belonging, and then we can start to make choices about the outer world, you know, like others, and putting ourselves towards a conscientious attitude toward the planet. And so if we can't, from the larger production end of things, address the basic human needs that really are at the bottom storyline of all of our clothing that we wear, then we're never going to move forward in this. So as a mental mind shift and reflecting on that social need, I like to remind myself every time I put an article of clothing on my body that there is a human being somewhere who touched it first, who touched it and held it, and their hands now are on my body. And so I want to try to treat that with the same love and respect that I would have for that person, not, you know, not just a garment of clothing.
Beautiful.
And a lot
A
of
lot
this
of
stuff
reverence
is,
in there.
yeah, thank you, Meg, for that. And there is a lot of this still going on all over the world. But there have been some positive changes, right? You know, that we talked about a little bit, some corporate responsibility that's happening with B Corps being created and things like that. Karen, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know you mentioned a little bit about some of these big companies are, you know, saying, yes, there is some of this stuff going on and we're working towards making that better.
Okay. The first thing I'll go back to the globe and talk just briefly about global garment production. One thing that consumption or consumerism does for developing nations who have a large part of their economy in textiles is that the more that's bought, and this is a catch-22, the more that's bought, the more production is put in that country. The more production that's put in that country, the workers have more work and they have more money. So they spend more money. So the economy and the rate of consumption increases. And therefore, the rate of pay of the workers increase. But what happens is, and this is an ongoing cycle, is that the rate of pay increases, and therefore then that segment of the economy that produces textiles to a nation like the United States, it gets too high to produce apparel there. So then they have to go into another deeper local production. So we just have to be mindful of that as well. But can you get me back on track?
Oh, sorry, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there some specific examples maybe of some bigger corporations or even general examples that are actually doing things to take responsibility for some of these injustices? You know, as far as forming B Corps, the way that they form themselves as companies even, or how the way they structure themselves to kind of give back to the people who are producing these garments.
H&M, their program of upcycling and recycling with the MacArthur Foundation, and Eileen Fisher is another one. Eileen Fisher is really dedicated to sustainability, but they also have an upcycle. They call it their tiny factory, and they have a retail venue in Brooklyn that sells all the tiny factory upcycles. So people can bring in their old Eileen Fisher garments and they get repaired and kind of renewed and then put out for sale in their little store in Brooklyn. Those are two that I can think of.
Okay, thanks for that. And you know, as humans, we tend to act out of what we know and make our choices based on what we know. So obviously awareness is a big part of this whole picture. And it definitely, you know, even when it comes to what we wear, it all comes down to our values and our habits. And if we want to work to change them, that takes time to try to think about things a little differently. Natan, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in the city to kind of let people know more about, you know, upcycling and secondhand clothing, and you know how you can still look amazing by just using stuff that you buy at a thrift store for really cheap? So not only can you still look incredible, but you're saving a ton of money.
Yes, I mean, I think it doesn't have to look it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to look good at all, you know, and to feel good, because it's for me, it's more like an attitude that I see when I put a clothes in somebody that I pick for them, and they haven't seen themselves in something like that probably, or something, and they have it, mostly probably they have it in their house, or it's when I see that look, that that's
hey, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I've never wear something like this, but I kind of like it. That for me is the mind switch when it happens, you know, like, okay, then I'm open to buy something vintage, secondhand, you know. So for me, it's that moment, and I think styling I have a particular taste for clothes and for colors. So I want to make sure that people feel very comfortable, and then that they also can wear sustainable fashion in a way that is that makes them happy. That makes them,
Absolutely.
and then on top of that, or on base of that, they are helping the planet.
Yes. And I love that you touched on that, like the personal side of it. Like everyone, I think it's interesting to change your mindset as far as, people's personal style. It might not be something they even think much about. So, they could just be, taking what they're fed from all these designers and from fast fashion that says this is what's hot this season, and it's like, no, you can throw all of that out the window and just do you and wear what makes you feel good, and repurpose things that are already in your closet. I know I had that coat from my grandma that you're like, or you could just wear it, put a belt on that, and then that just go out.
Yes, definitely.
So do you guys want to speak a little bit to the kind of maybe how people can develop their own personal style a little more, or what can they be thinking about to think more consciously about, what they're wearing or what they already have in their closet, and how to maybe even minimize that in some way, or slow down with the purchasing?
One thing that was really popular when I was living in Atlanta, clothes swaps.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, sometimes there'd be 20 to 30 women at a clothes swap, and we'd have it in a place where there was a lot of space and people would bring their clothes, and then and then we'd have like 4 a year. And you'd have,
Awesome.
you have brand new clothes. I mean, another thing is try to go a certain amount of time, maybe even a year, without buying any new clothes. Just go to the secondary markets. I haven't bought new clothes in 5 years. And you can find everything you want. You just have to look.
It's fun. It's like a treasure hunt, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Natan, I know you talked a little bit when we first talked about maybe there being some negative connotations a bit about like wearing people's old clothes.
Oh, see.
So,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about that a little bit? Just a culture, even like a cultural thing?
Yes, at least where I come from, I'm from Mexico, and there is a perception of secondhand and thrifted that is not really the best. That like either if there is like for people with low income, or that is you might have some bad energy, some I don't know, that it might be previously owned by somebody, I don't know, that it was a witch or something like that. So it's also the religious part.
Right.
And then it's like those I think in the Latin culture, for example, or where I come from, those are some barriers for the sustainable fashion, for people to acquire sustainable fashion. And it's like I mean, in terms of the religion, I don't know, like who do you think is God? Do you think God will be more happy in you contaminating the planet?
Right.
It's
Let's put this into perspective here, right?
Perspective, yes. Like, what do you think he would like to? If contaminate, like participating in this nocive cycle, fast cycle that is that it doesn't have to be nocive, but it's just it is because it's too fast. And then yeah, I don't think he would like that, or she, or I don't think they would like it. And I think it's something that, well, for example, I try to put sage in the clothes, to just balance it. And if there's energy that it needs to be balanced, well, we'll take care of it.
Yeah, we talked about that. I know it was getting a little like esoteric about that, but we did talk about that, kind of that it has to do not only with your personality, but there's some energetics going on there with the clothing that we choose.
Yeah, I mean, even the static energy, so I we just take it out, all of it.
Yeah. And there's definitely an empowerment part there too. So talking about other solutions and action steps that every person can take as a consumer to do a little bit better. So do you guys think, just maybe having people like do a little homework and research is helpful of their own, like if it's something they care about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I think that's part of it. And also to commit to buying fewer pieces with greater value.
That's-
Really look at how many white t-shirts do I own and how many do I need and how much did I pay for it? Or how many pairs of jeans do I own? How many do I need and how much did I pay for it?
Yeah, that spectrum of quality is a big thing, right?
It's a big
Or-
thing.
Yeah. Or if you have one white t-shirt, make sure it's like you love that white t-shirt and you use it for layering and you use it for on top of stuff. And that
Yeah.
pieces that are multifunctional, right, is a good thing to keep in mind. Just being more mindful and conscious about it. Meg, do you have some tips for people that want to do a little bit better?
Yes, especially as someone who absolutely fed the fast fashion industry for a little window of my life there, and fully admit to that addiction of a clearance rack. I mean, like, the feeling of getting something for 75% off is addictive. And I do want, so I want to honor that in saying, like, it's okay to start to take your time with the shift, to just start by asking the question, if I want to buy this today, how can I make sure that it's not going to end up in a landfill quickly? Can I wash it very carefully instead of just like the quick, chuck in the machine, chuck in the dryer, like bring it back out again until it's pilling and falling apart? Like, is there a way I can wash it to make sure that it can last a lot longer? How long can I really sustain this piece in my wardrobe? And if you are going to pass it on because you're not going to wear it anymore, knowing that it's going to be used, because that's, unfortunately, sometimes the Goodwill system does still result in like a landfill dump. So really thinking about, like, can I own this for a long time? Can I enjoy it for a long time? Can I really see it in my wardrobe for an extended period? And if the desire to buy something new is really strong in someone, then there's nothing wrong with researching, a small business that really focuses on sustainability and people being paid fairly. There are a lot of great companies out there, and many of them are more affordable than it would seem. There's definitely an option to buy something new in an affordable way that still supports sustainable and ethical business. And then the last little tip, I guess I would say, is versatility is one of my favorite words, because to be able to see a garment and know that you can wear it in more ways than one is glorious. It's like so much fun too. I know, like, the blouse that I'm wearing is actually reversible. I could totally flip it around, and I can tie it, I can tuck it in, I can do all these different things with it. So it makes me feel like I have 4 blouses in one, and it's only taking up that one hanger in my tiny closet that was built in 1950.
You still get that bang for your buck feeling,
Yeah.
like as if you were going to that sale rack. So maybe you paid a little bit more for that shirt, but you basically got 4 shirts for the price of one.
Exactly. And I know the name of the woman who made it, and that she's going to college for 4 years next year via a scholarship from her company.
Fantastic.
So, when you can put all those pieces together, it's like, it slowly starts to build, I think, the mindset shift, which if we just rip off the Band-Aid too fast, I think it can result in just like falling back into old habits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, there's those more mindful purchases and asking yourself some of those questions, like, how long will I own this? How many different ways can I wear it? Natan, do you have anything to comment on that? I know we talked a little bit about kind of how making those choices can contribute to your expression, like how you express yourself.
Yes, definitely. I mean, yes, I just want to add a little bit on that. It's also understanding that the fast fashion and the environment are in odds with each other.
Absolutely.
So you look at what you're wearing, and then you you think, is it reflecting what side did I pick?
You're on.
You know,
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
side am I on? You know, it's like what I'm wearing right now, is still reflecting that. So I think it's something that if you have it when you are buying the clothes, I think that will stop you. It should stop you to just engage in that fast fashion cycle that that is so harmful. So I think it's yeah, it's very important to make this switch and to slow down this cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, and about, I'm sorry, about the expression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just make, if you like fashion, just go and I mean, right now is the best time just to go out and try whatever you want that makes you feel good. It's these times are very interesting, and then it's about to get warm, so you can pretty much you have a wide range of occasion that you can wear it. And if you are in your house, because a lot of us have been in our house, you know, you also can be fashion forward, even from the waist up. You know? It's a very fun thing. It's pretty much what it gave me, honestly, a direction in life, a purpose, to promote the sustainable fashion, and to make it a mainstream, making it popular.
And I know in my health coaching practice, I always talk about one of the aspects of well-being being creativity. So I feel like developing and expressing your own individual sense of fashion can completely be one of those outlets for creativity, where you just can wake up and like open up your closet and it's just like a palette of colors for an artist, where you can say, oh, what can I put together today? And using accessories. And I know it's like we've gotten out of that habit because of this virtual world. So you're right. It's like you can, you know, some days you can put a little more effort into picking something out, even if it's just for yourself.
Yes, or sometimes you have a rule, you know, but I mean, in my case, sometimes it's like more is more. The more is more most of the times.
I also thought about when Meg was talking about the sales racks, I was like, that's how I feel when I go into a thrift store, except no
Yes.
pieces are the same. It's like every single piece is different. And every time you pull something out, you're like, oh my goodness, look at this. And sometimes it's horrifying and sometimes it's exciting. And but it's a fun experience. So if it's something that people aren't used to doing, I think it's super fun. But Risa said we have a couple of comments. So Risa, can you let us know what some of our viewers are talking about?
Well, we have someone who's faithfully following the show. I think she put in 2 comments. Janelle Clarkson. I don't know if you know her. You knew Jody yesterday.
Don't know Janelle. Hi, Janelle. Thanks for watching.
She put in a comment after Nathan's talking about his apron, and she said, great job, Nathan. And then a little later on, when Meg was talking about the human connection to her clothing and the fact that a human made it and she wants to honor that, she thought that was a very powerful perspective. So yeah, it's
nice.
Great discussion.
Yes. Thank you for the feedback. That's amazing.
I just wanted to mention to Nathan that, you know, looking at your apron, I'm thinking that the artists at Goggleworks would really be interested in something like that, you know, and maybe you could sell them there, or, you know, like the glass blowers and the pottery people, and, you know, those are great work aprons. Yeah.
Good thought.
I want to test the product. And so make it just ready to be on your corner store.
Right.
Yes,
right.
I actually thought of like the mixologists in the Reading area, like all that are making your fancy cocktails. You know, they have those like fancy aprons. So
awesome.
Well, I don't know if I don't think we have any more questions at the time, but we still have about 10 minutes. So free range, guys. We can carry this on however you'd like to. If there's something you didn't get to mention, or if there's a question you want to pose to one of the other panelists, or comments, feel free. We're kind of off the books now, so feel free to just go where you want to go with the conversation.
We were talking a little bit earlier about the history of the textile industry in Reading, and and why missing. And it's interesting. I've taken history courses, and I used to work at what is now the Berks History Center, but the Tuning Janssen story is an amazing story. And actually, the borough of Wyomissing is one of the first community designed, like, I don't know how to put this, a community designed well in this country. And they designed it based on communities in Europe where you had the workplace, you had the places where the workers lived, you had a hospital, you had a library, you had a museum, you had all these things were founded by that family. And to this day, there's family from that heritage living here. And so they've established the Wyomissing Foundation. There's lots, the philanthropy that family did is incredible. It exists to this day here in the community. So when you look at the community of Wyomissing, I mean, think of the big boulevards and the trees and stuff. Nobody was doing that then. In the suburbs now, we're not doing it either. But community design, they were visionaries with that.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I
we should
think
definitely bring that back. Go ahead, Natan.
that was actually one of the things that struck me during this conversation, that creating community, because that's probably also another purpose in life that I have. And it makes sense, or it resonates to me, the fact that they work in fashion and they want their workers to be happy in their life cycles, and they have everything. Commuting, like, it's important for your life cycle, access to services. So they are thinking in the whole thing, the whole win-win-win-win situation for everybody. And I think it's definitely something that it needs to bring back everywhere.
To create communities that are self-contained, right? Where you have everything you need. Walkability is really helpful, so people don't have to worry about transportation. So, like Risa mentioned, like creating communities and designing or redesigning communities so that you have everything you need, like close by, and you don't have to worry about going 10 minutes away, by car to go get your groceries or go to the thrift shop or go to the library, is a really a good thing to work towards, for sure. And speaking of community, Natan, I know I've been to a couple of your events, not as many as I always would like to get to, but do you want to tell people a little bit about some of the events that you've been holding over the past couple of years, like the fashion shows and your brunches, and a little bit about Vintage Reading and some of the things you've been doing?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much. And well, first of all, I want to I was having and I told Courtney that I was having a little complication describing what I do. So those beautiful words, David Nazario helped me a lot with them. So there's a writer behind it, and shout out, he's the best.
Yes.
So and in terms of the things that I have going on, I just moved to the city probably like 3.5 years ago from Mexico, and I've been in a journey myself. So I've been out there trying to to try things that I like, and to make like I don't live in. So I've been getting opportunities like doing fashion shows, and here, and then they have been in person and also virtual fashion shows that we have recordings. And I have worked with local brands, because for me it's very important empowering local brands too, like empowering local and empowering the youth too. So it's it hasn't been easy, but I've always enjoyed it. Now that's the important part for me, that it's something that I love to do. And coming soon, we have a fashion show at the Earth Day. Can I say something? No.
Yeah, you can. We're still planning on it. I mean, we talked about Arisa in our planning meetings that we're planning on like a 10 to 15 minute fashion show as part of our live in-person Earth Day event, which we are very excited about. I'm very excited about. I know Natan's very excited about, and we're hoping to even pair it with.
And excited.
Yes, and we're hoping to even pair it with some of the live music that we're going to be having, in front of the main stage and in front of the band shell there. So we are very excited about that happening. I know we kind of were getting past the virtual, and then we're going to delve back into our in-person event and get some of those plans more solidified. So that's a good shout out. Thanks for just our June 13th is the Sunday, the 13th is when we're planning to do the in-person event in City Park. Which has traditionally been the place in the past few, well, there was a little bit of gap, but it's been there many times. So we're excited to bring it back to City Park, right, Risa?
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah.
we're excited about that for sure. And yes, I am excited to see what Natan comes up with. And I know Karen mentioned working with us on that a little bit too, and maybe
Sure,
we'll have some
absolutely.
surprises to announce later. Does anyone else have any other comments or anything for the good of the order? We have
I
about
have some.
4 or 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that if we think back on when we make a purchase and why we make a purchase, and Meg spoke about investigating a brand and how they do business. There's a lot of movement, necessary movement, as we know, in social impact. So brands are really adopting purpose in their vision and in their mission statement, and it will be apparent in how they present themselves to the market, their website, their retail. So look for brands or look to do business, because that's essentially what you are. You're somebody, when you make a purchase, you're engaging in a business transaction. Look at them as a business who's a supplier to you, and look and see what their values are. And are their values driven towards social impact?
That's a great tip. That's a really
There
good
you
tip.
go.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Meg, anything to leave our audience with?
I'm so grateful to have been in this wonderful crew of humans,
Wonderful.
because each time that we've spoken, I've, just been energized by all of the knowledge that's come to the table here. So I'm grateful to have been a part of it, because I'm learning as I go. And it's meaningful to me. It's a real shift in life and in choices and in what to teach the next generation. So it's all meaningful to me, and I'm so grateful.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Meg. Thanks. Natan, anything, any parting words for our audience?
Yes, and the same thing. Gracias to be part of this
Absolutely.
panel. I feel very, very honored, and I thank the opportunity. Honestly, Courtney, thank you very much. And yes, please stop engaging with sustainable fashion. No, with fast fashion. I'm sorry.
Start engaging with sustainable fashion.
Yeah.
Yes, we know what you meant.
Yep.
Just make strides to do a little better. There's lots of small things that those little habit changes, right?
Yes.
Risa,
Definitely.
I'll check one more time with you to make sure we didn't have any other questions or anything.
We have one of the main organizers of our Earth Day events and virtual and live is Bill Litvin, who's been doing it for many, many years. And he's watching the show and had some comments about the conversation we had earlier about the chemicals and dyes that go into the
Sure.
investment from
Sure, we have another minute if you want to go ahead and cover what Bill had talked about.
Yeah.
Go for it.
chemicals and dyes and disposal methods that are used for that.
Was he asking a specific question about, or just generally?
Thoughts or comments on it? And I know we discussed it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, because we only have a minute, the dyes that go into our garments to create the color, of course, come from pretty heavy, earth unfriendly chemicals. And unfortunately, like, the system is just that the production companies will just dump the waste of the chemical dye processing into a local water supply. So there's, a pretty significant coverage of, I know in India, it's a huge problem in rural communities where the dyes are just kind of like seeping so much into the water supply that it's actually not really being filtered out. it's essentially being consumed. And, you know, the same is true for like the microplastic breakdown, because ultimately polyester is like a microplastic. So it might be a fabric that feels sort of soft and loose, but to think it actually has such similar qualities to a plastic kind of helps wrap your head around how that would be so environmentally
Detrimental.
unfriendly. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's sad that some of those things are happening, but like we said, I think that companies are becoming more conscious. So hopefully they can be a positive spin on it, that there's more being done. So I don't want to overlap too much with our 12 o'clock, but I want to thank everyone so much for being here. I'm grateful for
Beautiful.
all of you, and let's keep this conversation going, and feel free to comment on the video after the fact with your contact information or ways that people can get a hold of you. And thank you all so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. And Earth Day every day. Thanks guys so much.
See
Talk to
ya.
you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Great.
Everyone, thank you.